Yes, we're live. Hi, everybody. Wow. Oh, look at that. You TikTok shived me. And the reason we were late is because you were talking and I didn't want to go
You
live in
could
the
have
middle
just...
of your sentence. That's not, that is, no, it's not polite. It's unprofessional, Dana. It's unprofessional.
Yeah, well, I don't have to worry about that, do I?
Obviously not. Obviously not. And I love how you clearly feel utterly unbound by whatever standards of professionalism I may observe as well.
Well, does it matter? I'm not the one pushing the buttons. So I
Hi, everybody in the chat.
Hey, it's so good to see everybody. So David C. Drake, I'm very curious. On yours, does your tick show up before my TikTok or after it? Because for me, mine shows up first, but it may just be because like I did it and it may not show up.
I think yours shows up first for me as well.
Interesting. Okay. Fun fact. Yeah.
So you had not exactly a snow day today, but you had an unscheduled off day from school due to weather.
No,
right?
It was a snow day. Like we had snow.
Oh, there was. Oh, that's right. You sent me a picture.
Yeah.
There was snow. Yes, there was snow.
I sent you 2 pictures. One not so safe one, but
well, pardon me.
Yeah. Yeah, we had enough that it covered the grass. That's about it.
Also known as way too much.
No.
For me personally, for me personally, any amount of snow is too much. I have zero tolerance for snow. I am not a snow person because I am no longer 3 years old.
Were you no longer a snow person at like age 8?
No, I was, and
okay. I wasn't sure. I mean, you have your own, let's say, foibles.
You, as an English teacher, are aware of the concept of hyperbole.
Yes,
how
indeed.
One may sometimes employ hyperbole to make a point. And that is what I was doing.
I know, but like I said, you have your own foibles, and I wasn't entirely certain whether that was, hyperbole or just you.
For the entirety of my life as a public school student, I was extremely pro snow.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you got enough of it, you didn't have to go to school. So I was incredibly in favor of it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of the nice things about living in Georgia is that almost, and especially living near a mountain, but not on it.
Oh, yes, because you often get school cancellations, even if the weather or the roads are fine where you are, because all the hicks who live up in the mountains won't be able to safely get to school, or the bus drivers won't be able to safely get,
I mean, it's a thoroughly developed area up there. It just happens, they just happen to be at a higher elevation and have sloped roads.
All those hillbillies, all those inbred mountain people that live up there.
Honestly, I think the inbred mountain people wouldn't mind the rough weather. It's the city folk who live, in the gentrified hill area. The Hill Williams, I suppose.
The mountains of Georgia have been gentrified.
Only in certain locations.
That is horrible. Kirok asks, did you see the finale of Cobra Kai? Of course I did. Of course I did. I will say this. I'm glad it's over. I loved Cobra Kai for the first season. It was such a wonderful surprise. I was genuinely like impressed and taken aback by how good it was. Like I was expecting it to be just kind of like a fun nostalgia show. And like, well, I'll probably at least kind of like it because I love the Karate Kid. And it was like this legit great show that was so funny. And, and fucking William Zabka as Johnny. I still think for that first season, he should have at least gotten an Emmy nomination. He was so good. And as it went on, it just kept getting more and more kind of like they just kept adding things in and diluting it and adding characters and adding complications. And after a certain point, it's like, oh, they just want to keep this going. Like they're not really making creative decisions anymore. They're
They're
just
just making
making
money.
decisions. They're just extending the show, right? And after a certain point, it just kind of wore thin. So, I mean, I think under the circumstances, they ended it as well as they could have, and they did kind of find like I loved Johnny's first student, Miguel, who eventually becomes like his son, um, was one of my favorite characters, and I thought he was really, uh, and I thought he kind of got lost amongst all the other characters in the later seasons, and they did find a way to kind of bring him back to the center. But the way they did it was so contrived. It was ridiculous. Like so many things had to happen to kind of, pull the puppet strings to get the characters in the right places for the things. And it was just like, okay, I mean, they're making an effort to kind of wrangle it back into, position, but man, it's a lot of,
Do they get the
contrivances.
gold star for effort or not?
Yeah, they do, but I mean, but also you can't help but notice like that it was only necessary because
They pulled so much nonsense in the meantime.
they made things so complicated. Yeah, exactly. And then also like there was something rubbed me the wrong way about the fact that like the big final climactic fight was between two of the senseis and not the students. Like just that just felt wrong to me. Like, and it felt like that's not what the show, because if there is a thread that weaves through the entire series that kind of ties it together, it's about the relationship between student and teacher. And how like it's and how teachers can either serve their students or fail their students, and then like to end it with a fight between two teachers just seemed like it's. And again, that was like a contrivance to give Johnny like a redemption moment, which, like under the circumstances, I felt like they ended it as best as they could have. But I definitely noticed how far afield it had gone from the show that it was at first that I really, really loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alice, you're absolutely right. It has some nice places. Speaking of which, I think since the last time we did this, our school had its college and career fair, and Rock City was one of the businesses that had a table there. And so I had freshmen at the time. Freshmen were supposed to go, so I took my freshman class and made sure they all at least made it there, and then they kind of all went their own way, walking around finding friends mostly. But I walked through, looked at the different tables for the schools and the businesses, see who was there. And I saw them. I was like, hi. And they're like, oh, hi. And they said, and first thing one of the directors who was there said is, the tour guide is back. I was like, oh, really? Because that was something that I had gotten to do prior to COVID. And then when they opened back up, they didn't have that available. So I was just like kind of what they call a wayfinder. Anyway, and then they said, yeah. And like, that's a job now. Like, that would be, somebody's job. I was like, ooh. I'm like, oh, like, I know that I said that I was going to do less, but like I finished my conference thing and, I'm not planning to go anywhere. We don't have major plans for the summer. So I'm just like, okay, well, I'm definitely thinking about, starting back up there for the summer. So they were like, yeah, we were having tours over the weekends. I'm like, oh, no, not during the school year. No, that is not happening this year. Just got too much going on. So I said no, sort of, to some things.
I'm glad you had the willpower to at least say no to that.
Yeah, no, especially now, like, no, I don't want to be driving up Lookout Mountain in weather like this. So, Foxy Brown, yes, Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai. And I agree. I think the first 3 seasons are the best, era of the show. But but for me, especially the first season, like I don't think it ever got any better than the first season. The first season was so good. and it was funny, like really funny, but it also was heartfelt, but not in like a cloying way. And I mean, and like I said, like William Zabka, especially that first season, was just amazing. Was a revelation as Johnny, and really and turned him into such a great character.
Did you enjoy that first season, Steve?
I loved the first season of Cobra Kai. I loved it.
I could tell.
I'll tell you something they did in this last season that really, really rubbed me the wrong way. CGI Mr. Miyagi. Yeah.
Ooh,
Not just
yeah.
not just because the idea of it is tasteless because the actor is dead, and just like to sort of bring him back, and like it's I don't like
Oh
I don't
gosh, like
I
zombie-agi.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't think that sort of thing should ever be done, like under any circumstances. But the way it was done in Cobra Kai was especially frustrating because you can see in the scenes that they included the CGI Pat Morita character, like you could see ways that they could easily have shot it where artistically it would have been just as good, if not better, than what they did. And they wouldn't have needed to do that at all. Like there's a scene in one of the last episodes where Daniel has a dream, and in the dream it's like a recreation of the first time that Mr. Miyagi comes to his rescue in The Karate Kid, when he's being chased down by the Cobra Kai, and it's after the Halloween party and they're all dressed in their skeleton costumes, like one of the most famous and iconic scenes in the movie. And in Daniel's dream, all these Cobra Kai dressed in skeleton costumes are coming over the fence of Mr. Miyagi's house. And it's like, I mean, it's like an absurd number. It's like dozens of them are just swarming him. And then Mr. Miyagi comes out of the shadows and fights them off. And the way they shot, if you look at just the way they shot it without the glimpses of the CGI face, they got a body double who, you know, when shot from behind or shot in shadow, like they had him costumed and, you know, everything, like he looked like Mr. Miyagi, just, you know, from a distance or in shadow.
Yeah.
And if they would have just done that, it would have been great, you know, because like it's a dream. And you could, the fact that Mr. Miyagi's face isn't visible, or we never see his face, maybe Daniel sees his face, maybe he doesn't, like it works with the dream-like atmosphere. But showing that CGI Mr. Miyagi face, it's just like, no, don't do that. That just,
no, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Kirk, I didn't know that. Kirk says the actor who was his stunt double was also his stunt double in the Karate Kid movie. Well, that makes sense.
Why does that make matters worse? I'm not sure.
I guess I don't know, because they went to they found like the perfect guy to
do it, and then actually
double
and then
yeah. And the other thing is, in one of the previous episodes, Netflix split this final season into 3 parts. So instead of just releasing it all at once, they released it at like 5 episodes at a time. And one of the earlier sections of the final season that they released, there was a flashback kind of like dream sequence, fantasy sequence thing where Daniel sees a young Mr. Miyagi. And the actor they got to play young Mr. They cast a new actor. How about that? They didn't CGI his face up. They just cast another actor who was, you know, in the ballpark, who you could accept as a younger Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi, you know, much younger than we ever saw him in the movies. And again, that was fine. That was fine. So, you know, if you want to have like Mr. Miyagi make some kind of physical appearance in the show, like bring that guy back and just have it be young Mr. Miyagi. Like there's ways around doing it where you don't need to do the, you know, the digital grave robbery thing.
And also, I mean, honestly, even just have somebody who's different, like looks completely different. But, you know, like Daniel greets him as Mr. Miyagi. Like in the dream, this is Mr. Miyagi. I mean, I've had that happen. Like dream logic is just like, it just does its own thing. This is what it means. And just in the dream, you just like accept stuff. This is Mr. Miyagi. Yeah. You're like, oh, that's not what he looks like, but okay. And he is. Like when you wake up, you're like, Ian looked like, what? That doesn't look anything, huh? And it's like, okay, fine, I gotta go get breakfast or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there were ways to do it that were more artful than what they did, and it was just disappointing to be like, they like you could just, especially when you watch it and you can see a really good way they could have handled it, and they were like, nope, we got to get that CGI Miyagi face in there,
and they didn't. Yep.
Yeah. Mr. Miyagi, but with a hippo head. There you go, David. That's thinking outside the box.
Exactly.
Jan says, do we have any more news about the asteroid heading for us? Seems like the logical conclusion to our current times. Now, there's only a 3% chance that it's going to hit us, so let's not get carried away. I mean, 3% is the highest percentage that they've ever calculated for an asteroid to hit us, but it's still only 3%, so, Philip, exactly. A Star Trek example. Why do you look like my brother Ram?
Mm. So yeah. So yeah, I've got my laptop because there was lots of chit chat at school about the possibility of a snow day. And they didn't call it before we left, but I was just like, let's take my laptop just in case, we're out for the next day or two. So I have that with me. And then, but they've called a delay for tomorrow, which is just
a 2-hour delay
so far. But they've said they might call today. Like they will call. They said they'll announce if we're gonna have school or not by 5 a.m. I'm just like, y'all.
Good.
You should announce it by like 9 or 10 p.m. so that the bus drivers, or I mean, really all of us know what we need to expect for the next day. Because I mean, if I was a bus driver, I would be like, I want to know before then, because then I'm going to change my alarm. I don't know. So
yeah. Air on Fire says, please let it hit us. CDE says, remember how Furiosa, a Mad Max story, went to a lot of trouble to blend Alia Brown into Anya Taylor-Joy as she aged, leading to some ungodly Polar Express moments during the transition. Yeah, I mean, they didn't jump out at me as much as I think they jumped out at some other people. But yeah, I mean, the tragedy of that is like it's completely unnecessary. Like, we get that if you're depicting a character at vastly different ages, that you're going to have to get different actors to play them. Like, you don't need to do any digital trickery to make us think like, oh, look, she looks like the same. No, we get it. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, also just, whoop-de-doo. James Bond, like, no one cares.
Exactly. And that's a little different because that's from one movie to the next, but it's the same idea. It's like nobody, or I mean, my favorite example, which I think might even be better than James Bond because these movies all take place in the same continuity, is the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher Batman movies. Like, nobody explains why Batman all of a sudden looks like Val Kilmer. We get it. They cast another actor. They don't need, it would be a complete waste of time to even acknowledge it. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't. And then the other thing is, if the story is good, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. That's the number one.
If they have the Uncanny Valley CGI faces, and the story is good enough, doesn't matter. But the wonkier the faces get, the better the story has to be to compensate.
Yeah. Well, and the more you ask yourself, why are they doing this? Like, why, who thought this was necessary? Like, I thought that about, I know this is probably the example that we've talked about the most, and probably the one that has got the most attention, at least in the last 10 years or so, is, Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, where they CGI'd Peter Cushing's head onto another actor's body. And I'm like, just cast another actor. We just cast another actor,
Yep.
It's Tarkin's not that important of a character anyway. And even if he was, who gives a shit? Like, just cast another actor.
There, I wish that like reruns of Laugh-In still ran, because the only that I've ever seen was the 25th anniversary special, which had, you know, ran some clips, and I can't find it anywhere. I would love to have a copy of that. Anyway, one of the clips I remember is, you know, they had little doors open and people would pop their heads out, and, you know, part of a joke and another part of the joke go back to the, you know, different joke, and then go back because you haven't got the punchline of the previous joke. So anyway, there was one where the person came out, or the person popped their head out and did the first part of the joke and then went on, but they hadn't gotten to the punchline. And they would come out, they would pop their head out to do the punchline, but somebody else would interrupt them. And about the fourth time this happened, somebody else popped their head out and said, "No one cares anymore." I'm like, I want that. I want that as like, just that as a reaction MP4, because let me tell you, I feel that way about it.
No one cares anymore.
No one cares anymore.
I love it. Have you ever I'll mention this and then we can watch the episode. Have you ever seen someone tell a joke and they blow the joke at the end, and it makes you feel like physical pain, where you're just like, ugh.
Usually it's like a little bit below the solar plexus, like there's like an internal withering.
Because like I saw that today. Actually, I was watching you know how Facebook now is constantly shoving stuff in your face whenever you're on the Facebook app, and there was
it's like so much of it is not like actual people or anything. It's
and it's not just you follow ads, or anything.
It's like they're trying to do a for you, but you don't have like a for you and following option like you do on some other platforms. No, it's just in all your feed, shoved in there. Ugh.
But there was a reel of someone, and I can't remember what. Oh, I know, because the headline on the reel, the text was how to get out of a speeding ticket. And I watched it just out of curiosity, and it turned out that it was like a joke. And I thought, okay, I'll see what the joke is, because I didn't immediately clock what joke it was. So this guy is telling the joke, and you know, he's telling it like it's a real thing that happened to him, as you often do when you tell a joke. And he gets to the end, and he says the bit that is the punchline, and then he keeps talking for like 10 more seconds, like he's continuing the story, and then that's the end. And I'm like, you end on the punchline. Like, you don't say the punchline of the joke and then keep talking for, you know, to give it like a joke doesn't have a denouement. Okay? You end on the punchline.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was, were you expecting him to continue talking?
No, I was expecting him to nail the joke, and he didn't.
Well, yeah, but see, then, you know, it was unexpected and absurd, wasn't it?
Sure. Not in a funny way. No, incompetent joke telling is not. So, Geek says like an SNL sketch. Oh God, like so many SNL sketches.
I've been thinking about Laugh-In because the 50th anniversary of SNL came, you know, has been on social media and stuff, and it came up recently, and I was just like, yeah, I wish they'd done 50 years of Laugh-In instead. Because like,
yeah,
I actually liked those. There's very little SNL that I've
the
that doesn't give me that internal withering.
The best use to me, I mean, there are exceptions. There have been some really, really good SNL sketches over the years, but they are the exception. I've long thought the best use of SNL was as examples of what not to do, especially in terms of like sketch writing and comedy writing, because there are so many Saturday Night Live sketches where like they smother the joke, or they have characters that are pointing at the joke, and that ruins it, because most jokes are better if you let the audience get there on their own. And if you have a character who's or especially if it's one of those SNL sketches where the concept is like, there's a bunch of people acting in a really wacky way, and they always feel the need to have like the one normal character to react to the wacky stuff as though we won't get it if there's not a normal person there going, this is wacky, like completely
So
ruins it.
apparently they think that we're not normal.
Anyway, shall we watch some Poirot?
Let's do. Renwick says 50 years of SNL, only 12 years were good. 12 years were good? I don't know about that, Renwick. That's stretching it.
Yeah.
That's hyperbole.
That's generous. I think that's generous. And all, but it would be 12 years added up. It would be like, 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there.
Yes, I realize that's what it's. Nope.
Yeah,
nope,
but no, I agree. I think that's way too generous, but a good point, generally speaking.
So, for those of you who might be new here, so what we're going to do is, hopefully by now you have queued up your copy of Poirot. What are we watching? Which episode?
the case of the missing will.
That one. And so put it all the way back to the beginning at 0000.
Yep.
And then make sure you have it on your screen and ready, or remote or whatever, so that when Steve says 3, 2, 1, play, when he says play, we all press play at the same time, and then we watch together. And if something happens that you get desynchronized, oh no, don't worry. You can simply take a look up here at this nifty little number and then just switch the little bar so that your number matches that number, and you'll be right with us, and you can just join right back up.
There you go. All right. Dana, are you ready?
I am so ready.
Okay, everybody, get ready. I'll count us in from 3, just like Dana said, and we'll watch the case of the missing will. All right. In 3, 2, 1, play. David C. Drake, that's good.
Saxophone is on the music.
Look at this creepy Poirot. Hello, creepy Poirot.
With the purple creepy triangles. Really don't like that.
Art Deco train. Here it comes.
And that's what the triangles are from. They're from the train with they're holding the wheels together.
There you go.
That's where they were. I'm just not feeling it today.
Poirot does not have the will to get out of the bed.
I am suffering, Hastings. I am suffering from l'ennui.
L'ennui. Huzzah!
Uh-oh. Duck and cover.
Happy New Year for our time zone. Of course, if they happen to be in Greenwich Mean Time, then it's real. Then it really is New Year's.
Real
that's the only
time.
one that actually counts. Yeah.
Time is a social construct anyway.
Well, you're right about that. But...
Oh, he really did bite the farm.
All the men say aye. Well, CDE, I think anytime Matt Walsh isn't anywhere, it's a good thing. I propose that women are gross and weird, and they smell funny. We jeer at all your valid points. Ha ha!
Caitlin, you can never tell what we'll do. Hmm. But better than not are the logical ones, right? Eh? I love her dress.
Or anywhere else.
Hmm. Hmm.
Robert! Yeah, you tell him, Robert. What do I want with rights anyway?
Well, no, he's going to die soon. I don't want to change him. I want to change the people who are going to be around. I mean, that's how I took what she said. I'm not sure I want to. I don't want to bother with him. Moo. Azalea Jane, you're so right. I think he'd like to scream at us. A stethoscope.
I think I can trust you to deliver me my tools, even though you are a woman. Oh, Palestine, that'll be nice and peaceful. CDE, it's a perfectly innocent phrase. Like, take off your pants and jacket. It's completely normal. Azalea, yeah, it's a pretty uneventful place from what I've heard.
Hey Danielle, we are watching Poirot, and so we don't have the rights to show it here. But if you have the episode, there's a link in the
There's a
description, I
link
think.
in the description. Yeah.
And then up here you can see where we're at in the episode, and then there'll be some chit chat in the chat, and sometimes we talk about what's going on screen. And then afterwards we'll chit chat some more.
The Frankenstein creature has come home. Oh no, it's just the old guy again.
Kara, it's not so much I'll give you 500 pounds to give to somebody else. It's like, oh, you've given me 500 pounds. Well, if I have that kind of money, I want it to be used for this. I mean, the point of money is to give it away, like to spend it in some way.
This murder could have been an email. And occasionally to die. Don't you think we should go discover this body first?
Very important. Won't be a show if we don't do that.
No, he's lost in thought.
Dun dun dun. Kara, I would say moderately so, but I mean, not excessively. Ouch, Nikes.
Very, very frequently, Azalea.
Well, so I was talking, I don't know, maybe I was talking with you about this in Murder She Wrote, but I think
Yeah.
it might have been Cora. I don't. People die.
Yes, but they don't always die in the vicinity of a person who just so happens to solve mysteries for a living. I mean,
Well, there are what? How many? There probably aren't even 100 episodes of Poirot, and there are more than 100 people who died. So there's lots who didn't die around Poirot.
But I mean, if you talk about Murder She Wrote, I mean, that show was on for 12 years.
Yeah.
I mean, there are hundreds of Murder She Wrote episodes, and like every single week, Jessica Fletcher just happens to be nearby when somebody gets murdered.
And so what I really thought about that is, I mean, it's like what Miss Marple says about human nature, that it's much darker than people really realize. But the reason is that's her experience. Like, that's her normal. Like, she thinks everybody goes through that. Like, when you go on vacation, somebody's going to get murdered. Like, people just kind of get murdered all the time.
You just expect it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wonder who will get murdered during this trip.
Caveat emptor, it's you're gonna die sometime. Might as well you be careful about things, but realize you're gonna get killed sooner or later.
It is pretty funny to think about, though, like that Jessica Fletcher, who supposedly her real job is just an author, and yet she probably investigates more murders than like
a New York homicide detective.
Professional homicide detectives for their entire career probably don't investigate as many murders as Jessica Fletcher does during Murder She Wrote.
One of the most recent episodes I saw, she was actually in New York. She was there to like look at a galley or something, but then also visited a cousin or nephew or something.
Mhm.
and ended up working with. No, he wasn't a police detective at the time. He was a private investigator,
Mhm.
but it was one of the guys from Law and Order.
Yeah, yeah, it was
You'll say, I can't.
uh well,
He was the he was
on
the
Law and Order he
candelabra.
was yeah, on Law and Order he was Lenny Briscoe. I can't think of the
Yes,
oh, and
I
he was
know.
also Baby's dad in Dirty Dancing.
He's
Jerry
Lumiere.
Orbach. Jerry
There you
Orbach.
go, Jerry Orbach. Very good.
Yes. Legend. Legend of stage and screen. Yeah, Harry McGraw was the character name, H.B. Haga, yeah, on Murder, She Wrote. Oui, oui.
Maybe I don't really remember that one character's name.
Yeah, it was Harry McGraw because he appears in a couple of Murder, She Wrote episodes. And
Mm-hmm.
he even had a short lived spin off called The Law and Harry McGraw.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Well, the audience didn't because it didn't last very long.
Well, they should have. Hastings, what you should have said was, "But you're Hercule Poirot. Why wouldn't they
Exactly.
accept your word?" And then, because I want to see what Poirot would say to that.
You might pick up a stick at some point, Mr. Poirot.
Dun dun dun. Evidence is better. I've seen some of the Cadfael stories, Kara. I have not. I don't think I've watched any of Midsummer Murders.
Hmm.
I can and I will.
Yeah, take that, Sergeant Ronan
Yeah.
Loomis.
Kara, I would prefer a vicar like Dawn French. You noticed something that I didn't. It's incredible. It's not happen, not possible. Dun dun dun.
Bum bum bum. Ooh, that's deep. I performed a mustache transplant on the inspector some years ago. Oh, Dr. Kevorkian.
Dun, dun, dun.
Another case closed by Inspector Jeb.
See, he's like the Mounties. He always gets his man. Mrs. Peacock was a man?
Just drink your Theraflu, Poirot.
Kara, yes. It's just a line from Clue.
Well, yeah, Liz, everybody knows America as the land of no problems.
Toot toot. Roy me.
Whoops. Oh, she took a little tumble.
Kara, banks were allowed to refuse service to women until 1974 in the United States. Now, I mean, it wasn't illegal for them to extend, to open accounts for women under their own names, but they didn't have to do it.
It wasn't required that they allow it, yeah. Yikes.
Kara, no, we're not. Dun, dun, dun.
Mon Dieu. Sixth face. Well, I hope that your wife is not finding herself too miserable as a result of your indoctrination.
Punching on the Thames. That's from Mary Poppins. Oh, Cara, no, I would. Again, I'm just quoting movies. That one's from Mary Poppins.
Six face. I don't think so. I don't think Kirk was. I don't think Kirk is that conservative. He's. I mean, for all of his shortcomings and for all of the things about the show that reflect, the time that it was made, I think Kirk is a fairly tolerant, enlightened person.
Mm-hmm.
His feelings about Klingons aside, because let's not forget, Kirk does eventually overcome his racism toward Klingons.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
Yes, it is that scene.
We have to reach the full 45 minutes.
Mr. I Love the Ants is now the part of the graduation party where we reveal who the murderer of the class is. Yeah, take another one. Yeah. Boy, is that needle big enough? Jesus Christ. It's like a horse needle.
David C. Drake, that is an excellent title.
Oh, no.
Kara, they did seem very determined.
Oh, you're pushing it through the clothes. You got to make sure it gets in there.
Very important.
Bum, bum, bum. Yeah. David C. Drake dropping the Doom code in the chat. Not the Doom code, the Contra code.
Kari, you're assuming, I think she would want him to marry better. You know, it wouldn't be his money. She would have inherited it. He'd be sort of tied to her purse strings. She wanted him to have the money free and clear and then be able to do what he wanted with it.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Not
Let
nearly
that be a
enough,
lesson.
you know, excuse me, not nearly enough bumbling Hastings, but other than that, quite good.
Can't have too much of that. And let that be a lesson to everyone. Sexism kills.
So do murderers.
Yeah. Yeah. I was speaking more figuratively, but yes. Yes.
So I think I'm up for some Wordle.
Oh boy. Well, how about some Word Master?
Or some not Wordle.
So we're going to play Word Master, which if you've never seen us do this before, as you might have guessed, is basically just Wordle with a different name. And the way this works is in a moment, I'm going to switch over to the Word Master game board and you'll all be able to see it and I'll be able to see it, but Dana will not be watching.
Nope.
She will not be able to see it. But Dana is going to take the lead and decide what words we guess and so forth. And she will be going only by my description of
and what people say in the
the
chat.
board. Yes, yes, because if anybody watching wants to play along, we welcome your guesses in the chat. We will play as a group, as a team,
Woohoo!
and hopefully we will solve this word master puzzle. So here we go. There's the word master that we're going to be attempting to solve. And Dana, I turn it over to you.
Woohoo! Let's begin with heart. Heart.
Heart. Okay, we have an A in the wrong place and an R in the right place, and that's it.
Okay, let's try lions and see what we get.
Lions. Okay, now we have an I also in the wrong place.
Okay.
So it could be AIR something.
Mm-hmm. So I would guess AIRD.
Could also be AIRY. Could be fairy or dairy.
Mm-hmm. Let's try dairy.
You want to try dairy?
I think so, yeah.
Let's give it a shot. Dairy. DAIRY. Oh, holy shit, that was it.
Woohoo! Sorry, everybody.
We haven't got, I don't know if we've ever gotten a word master that quickly. We've gotten, we got when we were actually playing proper Wordle, we got one or two of those real quick, like on the second or third try. But I don't think we've ever gotten a word master on where the first try after your starter words. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Dairy.
Boom. Yep. Well, I went with dairy because I had also thought of layered as well. And, with RD being a common closer. And I was like, okay, well, dairy will let us try the D and we can see if that's not it. But we do have the D in the wrong place. We know it goes at the end. Yeah, good for us. So I guess that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Don't forget, check down in the description. We have some links to organizations that help people out if you have the opportunity to donate. We also have charitylinks.page where we have a curated list of friends and associates who could use some financial help. And again, those links are down in the description. Also, not this Friday. Is it this Friday? It's not. Is it this Friday? It's not this Friday.
There's no Ask Away this Friday.
There's no Ask Away this Friday. Alas.
Friday next week.
Yes. So you've got plenty of time. If you are not already a channel member or a patron of Steve's, you can click the button down here that says join. And then, or you can go to patreon.com/SteveShives and you can support his work there. And if you do, then on Monday, you will get an email that says, hey, here's the form, send in a question. And you will have up to 1,000 characters to ask anything your little heart desires. Indeed. And Steve will read it out on the air next Friday at that live stream. However, in the meantime, next Wednesday, we'll be right back here to watch some Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. What are we watching next week? Ooh, wait, boy. Let me guess. Is it season 5?
Yes, it is. It's
episode 24?
I'm not sure what the number is, but it is the second to last episode of season 5. A personal favorite of mine. A more lighthearted episode.
Ooh.
A fun episode. And it's an episode called In the Cards.
Well, all right then. So, yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm glad you were here. I'm glad I was here.
I'm glad you were here too.
And thanks for hosting, Steve.
As always, it was my pleasure. Thank you for watching Poirot with me and everybody else as well.
Always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining, everybody.
We'll see you next time.